Brexit treaty calling for a common regulatory area without internal borders in Ireland and Northern Ireland.
European Union. That is what they wanted. And on that day, for that day, we need to have organised its withdrawal in an orderly fashion. So I think now what we need to do is negotiate on the basis of a text, because time is short between today and the autumn of this year, which is when we need to conclude a final agreement based on this draft withdrawal agreement, because, as I always say, we need to allow a certain number of months for ratification. On the European side, the Council of Ministers and the European Parliament, of course, but also by the British Parliament. So that is why our choice is to work with and propose to the United Kingdom that we work with a legal text which brings clarity. A second point, this is a draft. And as of this afternoon, we will discuss this with the 27 member states in close contact with the European Parliament. But it is a draft, and we will only officially place it on the negotiating table with the United Kingdom once this work with the 27 member states and the European Parliament has been concluded. Now, I have been committed to transparency throughout the entire negotiating process, and that is why we have just published this draft. That will enable everyone to take stock of the subjects on which we need to reach an agreement with the United Kingdom. But I believe that this transparency is also a very important tool in the public debate on Brexit throughout Europe. As of now, thanks to this text, this is a tool based on legal principles, facts and solutions which are concrete and realistic. And I hope that this document will also be of use for your work. Ladies and gentlemen, journalists. And then a third point, this draft text contains no surprise for our British partners. It expresses in legal terms the commitments jointly entered into by the Union and the United Kingdom in December in the joint report. It includes the positions of the Union which were already known on other withdrawal issues on which we haven't really been able to make any progress since December. It includes the Union position on the governance of the withdrawal agreement, and finally, it includes the Union position on the transition, which is part of the withdrawal agreement, because, I repeat, the only possible legal basis for transition is Article 50.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to develop briefly each of these 3 points. First, our draft translates into a legal text our joint commitments. Nothing in here will be a surprise for those who have followed the negotiations. The draft text ensures that 1. Citizens' rights, our priority, will be protected as we had agreed, and will be vigilant on the need to keep administrative procedures simple and affordable. 2. All financial commitments undertaken at 28 will be respected by the UK and by the EU. 3. North-South cooperation on the island of Ireland will be protected and a hard border will be avoided. A few words on Ireland. Our text contains the legal commitments necessary for the protection of the rights of individuals, as well as for the protection of the common travel area. These points have been already agreed between the EU and the UK. The withdrawal agreement must also contain a solution to avoid a hard border and to protect the Good Friday Agreement in all its dimensions. This is a joint commitment by the UK and the EU. The joint report lists in paragraph 49 three options for tackling the problem. First, to deal with this through the agreement of the future relationship, if possible. Obviously, this solution will not be in place at the moment of the withdrawal. Second, the UK committed to proposing specific solutions to address the unique circumstances on the island of Ireland. We look forward to receiving these proposals. Third, to maintain full alignment with those rules of the internal market and the customs union, which now or in the future support North-South cooperation, the all-island economy and the protection of the Good Friday Agreement. This is the backstop solution that we have to put in the withdrawal agreement. It is the only way to guarantee that our joint commitments will be upheld in all circumstances as the joint report requires. Ladies and gentlemen, we have applied imagination and creativity to find a specific solution to the unique challenge that Brexit poses for the protection of the Good Friday Agreement. Two issues are key to avoid border checks. First, full alignment with the Union law on goods, veterinary and plant health rules. Second, our Northern Ireland has to be covered by the Union Customs Code. Our approach is focused on those areas where it is needed to avoid border checks. Daily life around the border should continue as today. And as I have said before, already today Northern Ireland has rules in place that are different from the rest of the UK. Let me repeat what I said in my last press conference. We stand by our commitment to discuss all three options set out in the joint report in parallel. All these issues on behalf of the 27, I will continue the dialogue with the political leaders of Northern Ireland. I will meet Michel O'Neill and Arlene Foster early next week. Mon deuxième point sur ce projet de texte, au-delà et avec la question de l'Irlande, c'est de dire que notre texte inclut nos propositions sur les autres sujets de la séparation.
EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier speaking there in Brussels. That's after the EU have released this draft Brexit treaty text, and that draft text creates a common regulatory area without internal borders covering Ireland and Northern Ireland. Mr Barnier keen to stress that it was indeed a draft and that talks will continue. They'll only put this draft text on the table in negotiations after their work with the other 27 EU members. He also said some interesting things, said we have to pick up the pace if these negotiations are to be successful, and that the negotiations on the final agreement need to be based on something. And he said that is this text that they are releasing. Negotiations need to be done by the autumn, he says. The draft ensuring all financial commitments will be respected by the UK, and that legal text draft protects the Good Friday Agreement. But certainly the headline news, which we were expecting, is that this legal draft from the EU, out of the three options laid out in December, the only one that they've put into this draft legal text is that there has to be, as a backstop, a common regulatory area without internal borders covering Ireland and Northern Ireland. Much more on that later in the afternoon, and also in the run-up to PMQs with Faisal Islam in a few minutes, so stay with us here on Sky News.
Well, welcome to snowy Chelmsford in Essex. It's a bright morning. The snow has stopped falling here, but we've had flurries throughout the morning. There's around 4 inches of snow here. All of the side roads are still very, very snowy, but the main roads are clear here. And also the rail services are still running here. But it is a very beautiful scene. I'm down in the Central Park in the centre of the